What would you do if a stranger offered you a way out of your crushing debts by marrying you? Mark Davis, a 23-year-old law student, finds himself trapped in an unimaginable proposal from Eleanor Brooks, a wealthy woman with a dark secret. In exchange for his hand in marriage, Eleanor promises to erase his debts and secure his future. But as Mark soon discovers, this is no love story. It's a deadly game of revenge, manipulation, and betrayal. Can he escape the web she's woven, or is he doomed to become her pawn? Watch as secrets unravel and lives are changed forever. Rain pelted the small college town in Texas, turning the streets into slick mirrors under a gray sky that seemed to press down on Mark Davis's shoulders. At 23, he trudged along the sidewalk, his backpack hanging heavy, his face carved with worry. Can you imagine juggling your final year of law school, a part-time job, and a mountain of debts left by a father who's no longer here? The world felt like it was closing in, tighter and tighter, with every step he took. Oh, how he wished for a break, just a moment to breathe. His phone buzzed in his pocket, jolting him from his thoughts. "Mark Davis speaking," he said, his voice weary. A composed, authoritative voice cut through the line. "Mr. Davis, this is Eleanor Brooks. I'd like to meet with you. It's regarding your financial situation." Mark's brows knitted together. Who was this woman? "I'm sorry. Who are you? How do you know about?" he stammered, but she interrupted. Smooth as silk, "I know enough. Let's meet at Brooks Bistro, 7:00 p.m. It's important." The call ended abruptly, leaving Mark staring at his phone. What on earth was that about? Confused, but undeniably curious. How could he not be? He made his way to the upscale cafe. The rain fell harder now, soaking through his jacket, which did little to shield him. Stepping inside Brooks Bistro, he was enveloped by warm lighting and the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee. Oh, what a relief from the cold. At a corner table sat Eleanor Brooks, a vision of elegance with silver hair styled to perfection, her tailored suit screaming wealth. "Mark," she greeted, gesturing for him to sit, her tone calm but commanding, like she held all the cards. Who was this woman, and why did she summon him here? Mark hesitated, his heart pounding. Was this a trap? He slid into the seat opposite her, his voice cautious. "Mrs. Brooks, what's this about?" She sipped her tea, her piercing blue eyes locking onto his. "Straight to the point." "Good," she said, setting her cup down with a delicate clink. "Mark, I know about your debts, the ones your father left behind. I know you're barely scraping by. I'm here to offer a solution." His brows furrowed deeper. "A solution? And what would that be?" he asked, bracing himself. Eleanor's next words hit like a thunderbolt. "Marry me." The air grew heavy, the words hanging between them, surreal and impossible. Mark blinked, his mind reeling. Had he heard her right? "Excuse me," he managed, his voice barely a whisper. "You heard me," she said, steady as ever. "This isn't about romance. It's a business arrangement. I'll pay off all your debts, ensure your financial security, and in return, you'll be my husband. Can you even fathom such a proposal? Marry a stranger for money?" Mark let out a disbelieving laugh, his head spinning. "You're serious? Why me?" "You don't even know me." Eleanor leaned forward, her gaze unwavering. "Exactly. You're young, unattached, and desperate enough to consider this. I don't need love, Mark. I need a companion, someone to share my name, my estate, and nothing more. Think of it as a contract." "A contract?" His mind raced. Was this his way out? Or a deal with the devil? He shook his head. trying to process the insanity of it all. This is insane. What's in it for you? For the first time, her expression softened, a flicker of vulnerability in her eyes. I've spent my life alone, Mark. I have no children, no family left. I want companionship, even if it's just for appearances. And I want control of my legacy. A husband will help solidify that. Her words struck a chord, but still marriage? Could he really do this? He stood abruptly, the chair scraping the floor, his heart pounding. I can't. I need time to think. Eleanor's voice remained cool, unflappable. Of course, but don't take too long. The offer doesn't stand forever. Mark stumbled out into the rain, his clothes soaking through as he walked home, his mind a whirlwind of questions. Could he really say yes to this? Could he afford to say no? That night, he sat at the kitchen table with his mother, her pale face etched with the same worry that haunted him. The cost of her medical treatments had drained them dry, and his younger sister's tuition loomed like a storm cloud. How could they keep going like this? Mark, his mother said softly after he explained Eleanor's proposition. I know it sounds unthinkable, but if she's willing to help, maybe it's worth considering. Her words felt like a punch to the gut. Was she really asking him to do this? Mark stared at his hands, torn between pride and desperation. You're asking me to marry a woman I don't love, just to solve our problems, he said, his voice cracking. His mother's eyes glistened with tears. I'm asking you to save yourself, she whispered, her voice trembling, to save us. Oh, how those words cut deep. The weight of his family's survival rested on his shoulders. Could he bear it? The next morning, Mark returned to the bistro, his heart heavy but resolved. Eleanor was already there, her demeanor as calm and composed as ever, her eyes fixed on her tablet. You've decided, she said, not looking up. How did she know? Mark took a deep breath, steadying himself. I'll do it, she smiled faintly, setting down her tablet. Good. The arrangements will be made immediately. Just like that, his fate was sealed. Was this the right choice, or a terrible mistake? A week later, Mark stood in a small courthouse, dressed in a suit Eleanor had provided. The ceremony was quiet, almost sterile, witnessed only by Eleanor's lawyer and a notary. As they exchanged vows, Mark's chest tightened with unease. Could he really go through with this? When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Eleanor turned to him with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Welcome to your new life, Mr. Davis, she said. New life? It felt more like a new cage. As they left the courthouse, rain drizzling once more, Mark caught his reflection in a puddle. His face stared back, a stranger to himself. Had he just saved his family or sold his soul? The question gnawed at him, relentless and unforgiving. The gates to Eleanor Brooks's estate creaked open as Mark's cab rolled up the long driveway. The house loomed ahead, a sprawling mansion that could have been plucked from a history book. Its towering columns and pristine stone facade screamed old money, but its windows were dark, lifeless, like eyes that refused to see. Mark stepped out, suitcase in hand, feeling like he'd wandered into someone else's dream or perhaps a nightmare. Was this really his life now? Eleanor greeted him in the foyer, her demeanor polished to perfection. Welcome, Mr. Davis, she said, the formal address sending a shiver down his spine. Why did she call him that? I trust you'll find everything to your satisfaction. Dinner's at 7. He nodded mutely, following a housekeeper who led him to his room. It was opulent, with a king-sized bed, antique furnishings, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking manicured gardens. But despite its luxury, the room felt cold, as if no one had ever truly lived there. Could he ever feel at home here? That evening, Mark sat stiffly at the long dining table, Eleanor at the other end, dough, dressed impeccably in a silk blouse and pearls. The food was extravagant, prepared by a chef he hadn't seen, served by staff who moved like ghosts. "I trust you're settling in," Eleanor said, cutting into her filet mignon with surgical precision. Settling in? How could he settle into this surreal world? "It's different," Mark replied cautiously. "This place is huge. Feels like I'll get lost." Eleanor smirked, a glint in her eye. "You'll get used to it. Or you won't. Either way, you're here." Her bluntness stung. Mark pushed forward, curiosity outweighing caution. "You didn't mention much about your late husband before." Eleanor's knife paused, mid-cut. She dabbed her mouth with a napkin, her movements deliberate. "He was a businessman. Like your father, their paths crossed once or twice," she said, her tone darkening. "But as you might imagine, not all encounters end well." Mark's pulse quickened. What did that mean? "What do you mean?" he pressed. She looked at him, her eyes sharp as knives. "Let's just say unfinished business has a way of lingering." She picked up her glass of wine, dismissing the topic. "But that's in the past. You'll soon understand why I chose you." Her cryptic words left Mark's stomach in knots. What was she hiding? After dinner, he wandered the halls of the estate, the silence broken only by the faint creak of floorboards underfoot. He passed several locked doors, their brass handles gleaming in the dim light. Each one seemed to whisper secrets, secrets he wasn't meant to know. Why were they locked? What lay behind them? As the days passed, Mark's unease grew. The staff avoided his gaze, speaking in hushed tones when they thought he wasn't listening. He caught fragments of their conversations, each one twisting his gut. Why him? Does he even know? She never does anything without a reason. He'll figure it out eventually. They always do. Figure out what? The questions piled up, heavy and suffocating. One evening, while pacing the library, Mark's eyes fell on Eleanor's desk. Papers were strewn across its surface, but what caught his attention was a small, ornate key, gleaming under the desk lamp. Its intricate design seemed to beckon him. Was this the key to his answers? His gaze darted around the room. No one was there. Heart pounding, he reached for it. The key was heavier than he expected. Cool against his skin, could this unlock one of those mysterious doors? He glanced toward the hallway, where shadows danced against the walls. His breath quickened as he slipped the key into his pocket, his mind racing with possibilities. That night, lying in his luxurious but suffocating room, Mark turned the key over in his hands. A million questions swirled in his mind, but one loomed larger than the rest. What is Eleanor hiding? And why had she really chosen him? Oh, how he needed to know. The truth felt so close, yet so dangerously far away. The mansion was cloaked in an eerie stillness. As Mark crept down the hall, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest, the ornate key in his pocket felt like a lead weight, its cool surface pressing against his thigh, a constant reminder of the secrets he was chasing. Could this tiny piece of metal unlock the truth? His pulse quickened as he approached a door he'd noticed before, its brass handle glinting faintly in the moonlight that streamed through the tall windows. Glancing over his shoulder, he held his breath. Was anyone watching? With trembling hands, he turned the key in the lock. The soft click echoed in the silence, sending a chill racing down his spine. Oh, what had he just done? Slowly, he pushed the door open, his heart in his throat. The room was like stepping into a forgotten era, a time capsule sealed tight, dusty furniture draped in shadows, faded wallpaper peeling at the edges. It was as if time had stopped. Photographs in tarnished silver frames lined a table, their images capturing moments of joy long gone. Eleanor as a young woman, radiant and smiling. A man who must have been her late husband, and another couple Mark didn't recognize. Who were these people? What happiness had they known before it all unraveled? But it was the stack of papers on the desk that seized his attention, pulling him like a magnet. Mark flipped through the documents, his eyes widening with every page. Legal papers detailed failed business deals between Eleanor's husband and his own father. A letter, written in sharp, slanted handwriting, burned with accusation. You ruined everything. My family was left with nothing because of your lies. His breath caught in his throat. Fraud? His father? The words stung, each one a dagger to his heart. Then, the final page, a marriage license. His name and Eleanor's glared back at him, stark against the paper, dated weeks before their wedding. Weeks. How could that be? His stomach twisted. What kind of game was she playing? On the desk sat an old, leather-bound diary, its cover worn but heavy with secrets. Mark hesitated, his fingers hovering. Should he open it? With a deep breath, he did. The entries were Eleanor's, each word dripping with cold calculation, revealing a plan to trap him in a marriage that served her ultimate goal: revenge. I will take everything from him, just as his father did to me. He will be my pawn. A pawn? The word echoed in his mind, chilling him to the core. Was that all he was to her? Mark froze as the door creaked behind him. Enjoying yourself? Eleanor's voice sliced through the shadows, icy and sharp as a blade. He spun around, guilt and fear painted across his face. Eleanor, he stammered, but she stepped into the room, her silhouette stark against the dim light from the hall. You thought you'd find answers here, she said, her tone venomous. Curiosity killed the cat. Mark, what do you think you're doing? Oh, how her words cut, each one laced with danger. His voice was low but firm, fueled by a spark of defiance. Why did you really marry me? Is this about my father? Is this some kind of revenge? Eleanor's eyes hardened, her composed facade cracking like thin ice. It's not your place to ask questions, Mark. Just do what you're told, and you'll leave this marriage better off than you started. Isn't that enough for you? Enough? The word felt like a slap. Mark's fists clenched, his anger rising. Enough. You've lied to me, manipulated me. This isn't a marriage, it's a trap. Eleanor's lips curled into a faint, chilling smile that never reached her eyes. A trap, is it? Maybe you should have thought twice before signing those papers. She stepped closer, her tone dripping with venom. You may think you're smart, Mark, but you're just like your father, blind to the damage you cause until it's too late. Her words hit hard, dragging the weight of his father's legacy down on him. How could she compare them? Mark glared at her, his voice trembling with rage. If you hated him so much, why take it out on me? I had nothing to do with what he did to your family. Eleanor stared at him, the silence stretching like a taut wire, heavy with unspoken truths. Finally, she turned on her heel. You're in over your head. Mark, stay out of matters that don't concern you, she said, her footsteps fading down the hall. Stay out? How could he, when the truth was unraveling before him? Later that night, Mark lay wide awake in his opulent but suffocating room, his mind a storm of questions. Eleanor's words haunted him, but so did the documents and diary. Why had she gone to such lengths to entangle him in her schemes? Was it really just about revenge, or was there more? Oh, how he wished he could turn back time. His thoughts were shattered by the faint sound of Eleanor's voice, drifting through the walls. Heart racing, he slipped out of bed and crept toward her study, pressing his ear against the door. Make sure the transfer is complete, Eleanor said, her tone sharp and commanding. We can't let him back out now. Time is running out. Mark's blood ran cold, his breath catching. A transfer? Back out? Whatever was happening, he was in deeper than he'd ever imagined. What had he gotten himself into? The next morning, Mark sat alone in the grand library, his mind a whirlpool of fear and confusion. Eleanor's cryptic words and the damning contents of that locked room made it painfully clear. He was in over his head. The estate, once imposing with its towering columns and pristine stone, now felt like a gilded prison, its luxurious trappings hiding dark secrets. How could such beauty conceal such treachery? That evening, Mark approached Mr. Harris, the estate's head butler, a man whose calm demeanor hinted at depths of knowledge. Mr. Harris, the first need your help. Something isn't right here, Mark pleaded, his voice urgent. The older man regarded him with a steady gaze, his hands clasped behind his back. I was wondering how long it would take before you came to me, Mark, he said softly. Did he know everything? You know something, don't you? About Eleanor, about all of this, Mark pressed, desperate for answers. Mr. Harris hesitated, then spoke, his voice measured. You're not the first young man to be drawn into Eleanor's world. Mark, she's clever, resourceful, and ruthless when it comes to her goals. My advice? Watch your back. Watch his back? Mark's chest tightened. Why are you still here if you know what she's capable of? Miss. Harris's expression softened, a flicker of regret in his eyes. Some of us don't have the luxury of walking away. Oh, what a heavy burden that must be. Determined to find a way out, Mark began crafting a plan. He reached out to Peter, a trusted friend from law school, under the guise of catching up. Peter, hypothetically, if someone signed a contract under coercion or false pretenses, is there any way to void it? He asked, his voice casual but his heart racing. Peter's tone grew serious. Hypothetically, yes, but it depends on the evidence. Why, are you in some kind of trouble? Mark deflected, forcing a laugh. Just a class project I'm working on. Thanks, man. But trouble? Oh, he was drowning in it. Over the next few days, Mark carefully searched Eleanor's office whenever she was away, hoping to uncover something, anything, that could explain her obsession with his father. Late one night, as he rifled through her desk, his fingers brushed an envelope addressed to his father. His heart sank as he opened it. The letter, written by Eleanor, was a scathing condemnation, accusing his father of embezzlement, fraud, and deceit that had ruined her family and led to her husband's death. You left us with nothing. My husband's heart couldn't take the stress, and he's gone because of you. I will see to it that your family pays for what you've done. The words burned into his mind. Revenge? This was her motive all along? Mark's stomach churned, a mix of anger and betrayal. Eleanor's actions weren't just about reclaiming her fortune. They were about vengeance, fueled by years of pain and loss. Carefully returning the letter to its hiding place, he resolved to act. He couldn't let her use him as a tool for her vendetta. That night, he began mapping out escape routes from the estate, each step a desperate bid for freedom. Could he outsmart her? But Eleanor's instincts were razor sharp. The next morning, she found him in the breakfast room, her icy presence slicing through the quiet. You've been busy, haven't you? She said, her voice cold as steel. Mark froze, his spoon halfway to his mouth. I don't know what you're talking about, he managed, his heart pounding. She smiled coldly, her eyes glinting with suspicion. Don't play coy with me, Mark. If you think you can outsmart me, you're sorely mistaken. I've dealt with far craftier opponents than you. Craftier? Was he really so outmatched? Mark swallowed hard, trying to keep his voice steady. "I don't know what you're accusing me of, but I'm not doing anything wrong." Eleanor leaned closer, her voice a venomous whisper. "If you betray me, you'll wish you hadn't. Remember that." She straightened and left, leaving Mark grappling with a chilling truth. Escape might be more dangerous than staying, but staying meant surrendering to her twisted plans. A fate he refused to accept. How could he break free? The air in the estate crackled with tension as Mark paced the library, the weight of his discoveries pressing down like a storm. The private investigator he'd quietly hired had just left, confirming a devastating truth. Eleanor's late husband, Harold Brooks, had been swindled by Mark's father in a fraudulent real estate deal that stripped the Brooks family of their fortune. Harold's death from a heart attack soon after was the final blow, leaving Eleanor bitter and hell-bent on revenge. Revenge? Against him for sins he didn't commit? The injustice burned, fueling his resolve to fight back. Eleanor's proposal to marry Mark wasn't just a cold, calculated move to settle old scores. Oh no, it was a sinister plan to make his family suffer, reaching even beyond the grave. Mark clenched his fists, anger surging through him like a wildfire. How could she pin his father's sins on him? How dare she drag him into her vendetta? Yet, as much as he despised her actions, a tiny part of him couldn't ignore the deep pain that fueled her. Could anyone truly heal from such loss? Her grief was palpable, but did it justify her cruelty? That evening, Mark slipped away to meet his law school friend Peter in secret, his heart pounding with the weight of what he'd uncovered. Together, they pored over the evidence Mark had painstakingly gathered from Eleanor's office, combined with the private investigator's shocking findings. Among the documents, they unearthed something chilling: Eleanor's involvement in shady business dealings, teetering on the edge of illegality, falsified reports, dubious partnerships, all designed to rebuild her empire. No matter the cost, was she unstoppable? "Mark," Peter warned, his voice low and urgent, "this is enough to bring her down. But you've got to be careful. If she catches wind of this, who knows what she's capable of?" Mark nodded grimly, his jaw tight. "She's already done enough damage. It's time to end this madness." Oh, how he burned to set things right. The next morning, Mark waited in the grand sitting room, the evidence tucked securely in his bag, his nerves frayed, but his resolve unbreakable. When Eleanor swept in, her icy composure as flawless as ever, he rose to face her, his heart thumping. "Mark, we need to talk," he said, his voice steady despite the storm inside. Eleanor raised a perfectly arched eyebrow, her tone sharp. "Is that so? What could possibly be so urgent?" Could she sense the confrontation coming? Mark's voice was firm as he pulled out the damning documents, his hands steady despite the fire in his chest. "I know everything. About my father, about Harold, about the crooked deals you're pulling to rebuild your fortune." For the first time, Eleanor's polished exterior cracked, her eyes darting to the papers in his hand. "You've been snooping again, haven't you?" she snapped, her voice laced with disdain. "Do you even understand what your father did to my family?" Oh, how her words dripped with bitterness. Mark stepped closer, his voice rising with passion. "I understand he wronged you, but what about the people you've crushed along the way? What about me? I didn't do anything to deserve this." His words echoed in the vast room, raw and unyielding. Eleanor's jaw tightened, her eyes flashing. "My family deserved to lose everything? My husband deserved to die of stress and heartbreak while your father lived comfortably? Don't you dare talk to me about fairness, Mark." Her pain was a living thing, sharp and cutting. But was it an excuse? Mark's hands shook as he held up the evidence, his voice trembling with conviction. "Revenge won't bring Harold back. Eleanor, and it won't undo the past. You've spent your life consumed by this, hurting innocent people, ruining lives. When does it stop? For a fleeting moment, Eleanor's shoulders sagged, and Mark thought he glimpsed something like regret in her steely eyes. "You remind me of him, you know," she said softly, her voice almost tender. "Harold. That same fire, that same stubbornness. I didn't expect to feel anything for you, Mark, but here we are. Feel something? Could that be true?" Mark hesitated, thrown by her sudden vulnerability. "If you really feel that way, then stop this. Let it go before it's too late," he urged, his voice thick with hope. But before Eleanor could respond, the sound of car tires crunching on gravel pierced the tense silence. Moments later, uniformed police officers stormed into the room, followed by Peter, their presence like a thunderclap. What was happening? "Eleanor Brooks, we have a warrant for your arrest," an officer declared. "You're being charged with multiple counts of fraud and conspiracy." Eleanor's face hardened, her gaze snapping from the officers to Mark, betrayal burning in her eyes. "You called them," she hissed, her voice low and dangerous. Mark met her stare, unflinching. "You left me no choice," he said, his voice steady but heavy with sorrow. Had it really come to this? As the officers led Eleanor away, she turned back to Mark one last time, her words sharp and haunting. "You may think you've won, Mark, but revenge isn't so easily undone. Be careful it doesn't consume you too." Mark watched her go, a wave of relief crashing over him, tangled with a deep sadness. He'd exposed the truth, protected himself, but her parting words clung to him like a shadow. Was she right? Would the ghosts of their shared past ever let him go? Oh, how he hoped for peace. The gavel's sharp bang rang through the courtroom, marking the end of Eleanor Brooks's trial. Mark sat quietly in the back row, his heart heavy as he watched the once formidable woman he'd married face the consequences of her actions. Despite everything her lies, her manipulation, he'd testified in a way that softened her sentence, not out of pity, but because he understood the tangled web of pain and loss that had driven her. Could anyone truly judge her without walking in her shoes? Eleanor turned briefly in her seat, her gaze locking onto Mark's. For the first time, the cold calculation that had defined her was gone, replaced by a faint, almost apologetic nod. Was that remorse? Mark's heart stirred, conflicted but strangely moved. Days later, Mark was called back to the estate one final time. The grand house, once a looming fortress of secrets, now felt hollow, its halls echoing with memories. Eleanor had arranged for him to receive the property's deed, a gesture that stunned him. The estate lawyer handed him a letter, written in Eleanor's elegant handwriting. It was never about the money, Mark. It read, "It was about closure. Harold deserved justice, but I lost sight of what truly mattered. You've shown me something. I thought I'd forgotten the capacity to move forward. This estate is no longer a monument to my pain. It can be something more. Use it well." Oh, how those words pierced his heart. Could he honor her wish? Mark sold the estate without hesitation, a decision that felt like shedding chains. Its opulent grandeur had been a gilded cage for both him and Eleanor, a prison of past wrongs. The proceeds lifted a crushing weight he paid off his family's debts, freeing his mother from the shadow of his father's mistakes. With the remaining funds, he established a scholarship fund in Harold Brooks's name, a tribute to the man caught in the crossfire of a bitter feud. Could this be a way to heal old wounds? Returning to law school felt like coming home, a fresh start after a storm. This time, Mark was driven by a fierce determination to use his education for good. He interned at a legal aid center, helping people like Eleanor, those wronged by the world, left without hope. Was this his true calling? Each case fueled his purpose, a spark of light in the darkness. One crisp autumn afternoon, a letter arrived, its familiar handwriting stopping Mark in his tracks. He sat on a park bench near campus, the air cool and sharp, and unfolded Eleanor's words. "Mark, I've had much time to reflect," she wrote. "For years, I believed revenge would heal the wounds Harold's death left behind. But I see now that revenge is its own prison. Your kindness, even in the face of my mistakes, taught me something I never expected. Forgiveness is not weakness, it is strength. Thank you for being better than the world around you. Thank you for showing me we can break the cycles we inherit. I hope you find the happiness I never could. Eleanor." Oh, how her words sank deep, stirring something profound. Could forgiveness truly set them both free? Mark stared at the letter, the weight of her words settling in his soul. He folded it carefully, tucking it into his jacket pocket, a quiet sense of peace washing over him. Had he finally found closure? A year after Eleanor's arrest, Mark stood before a group of scholarship recipients at a small ceremony. His heart full, behind him hung a simple plaque, the Harold Brooks Scholarship Fund for Second Chances. "This fund isn't just about money," he said with conviction, his voice ringing clear. "It's about creating opportunities for those who might otherwise be forgotten. It's about turning pain into purpose. Could there be a greater mission?" After the ceremony, Mark sat alone, reflecting on the whirlwind of the past year. His path had been forever changed, but for the first time, he felt he was walking the right one. As he left the ceremony, a soft smile curved his lips. He glanced up at the clear sky, the weight of the past finally lifting, like a bird taking flight. Eleanor's letter stayed in his pocket, a gentle reminder of the lessons they'd both learned about redemption, justice, and the transformative power of forgiveness. Oh, what a journey it had been. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey of resilience, redemption, and forgiveness. Mark's story shows us that even in the face of betrayal and hardship, the choices we make can lead to healing and new beginnings. Isn't that inspiring? If this story touched your heart, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends and loved ones. Let's spread the message of hope and second chances far and wide. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories for more heartfelt tales that move your soul and remind us all of the power of compassion, forgiveness, and love. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time with another soul-stirring story. Until then, take care and cherish the lessons life brings. What will your next chapter hold?